Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Awakening to Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Lou Redman, and today I am so excited to be chatting with our guest, Darius Bashar. Darius is a celebrated photographer and cinematographer who works with international celebrities, best-selling authors, and thought leaders such as Seth Godin, Liz Gilbert, Lisa Nichols, and Masai Ujiri. His work has been featured in world-class publications such as Time, Apple, Forbes, USA Today, Oprah.com, and others. And he is also the founder of Artist Morning, which is an international community of artists, creators, and meditators, and has led and facilitated over 250 group meditations for hundreds of people around the world. Darius, brother, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lou. Excited to be here with you.
So I found Artist Morning and I loved it so much because I call myself, maybe just to myself, a meditation artist more than a teacher, more than a guide. I see meditation as like a singer might see a song. Like to me, it feels like there's this pull towards creating something and theming it based on some kind of emotional experience I went through. And I've really let go of needing there to be strict rules. And I've kind of allowed meditation to be my art. So when I found Artist Morning, which is a platform where people come to meditate, to tap into their creativity, I was like, this is so exciting. And I was so stoked on it. So most people that I know who describe themselves as spiritual or maybe having some kind of spiritual practice like meditation or journaling, they often are tapped into their creativity in some way. However, not all artists and creatives have a spiritual practice. It doesn't go the other way, which I really think can be an X factor if people understood it. So, how far into your artist journey did meditation find you? And I'm putting spirituality on there. You might not use that term, but how far did meditation find you? Or was it the reverse of that? Or were you a meditator and then began your creative journey?
Yeah, for me, it was in reverse. My mom is a very special human, and she got into meditating when I was probably like 18, like really heavy into meditation. She's always been into personal development and Tony Robbins and Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and like Joe Dispenza and like all of the personal development people. She was heavily into that. And like I think all of the kids in my family, our first paid job was my mom saying, if you listen to this Tony Robbins tape or this Wayne Dyer tape, I will give you $20. And I was clever. I'm like, yeah, no problem. She's like, I'll give it to you after you've listened to it. And then I tried to listen to it. I passed out. I'm like, oh yeah, it was so great. It was so good. She's like, yeah, what does he say about XYZ? And I couldn't answer. She's like, you don't get your $20. So she is an evangelist when it comes to like personal, human, and spiritual development. And then she got into meditation, and then I got into meditation when I was like, I want to say like 20 years old. A very specific style of meditation called holosync. It was like binaural, but like on steroids, and it's very expensive, and they'd send different frequencies into your brains and drop you into alpha, beta, theta, delta, depending on where you were in your journey and in their course. And it was like me and my business partner at the time, and it was just like crazy epiphanies. Like something happened, I think, to our brains and our souls, perhaps. And then I went through a rough patch, and I just kind of like I resented it, and I think I broke up with God. And I was just like, oh man, this whole thing, and I was just for years kind of lost because I fell into there's like a shadow side of manifesting, where you just sit around and think and feel, and then things are supposed to happen. And, it's yes, and it's do that and also take actions and show up and feel your feelings. And so, my artist journey, where I was like public about it, started maybe like 12 years after that. And then when the artist journey and the spiritual journey collided, that was like the breakthrough moment of my entire life where everything changed.
So taking us back a little bit, because it's so curious to me when someone gets into personal development at like in their teens or has a parent that influences them, because I feel like you can either go two ways, right? You can totally say, no, this is not for me, or you can be consumed by it. So you said you were in a business with someone at 20. Like, were you encouraged to be entrepreneurial from a very young age, or was there like encouragement to go to school, or were you just like, screw this? Like, how do you make that leap from teenager to I'm going to start a business and go from there?
Yeah, I think I was encouraged in the way a lot of us are encouraged. Like entrepreneurship is really put on a pedestal. And I've come to change my opinion of that. Like I tell people, don't be an entrepreneur unless you absolutely want to. It's, you know, like, oh, I get to choose my own hours. And yeah, you'll choose all of them. And I get to like choose who I work with. I have no boss. Yeah, all your clients end up being your boss. Like it's not as easy as you think. So don't do it unless you absolutely want to. Don't try to escape something to go into entrepreneurship. But like, so like, yeah, little boys were taught that like, yeah, be your own boss, be, you know, run a business. And then I was encouraged that like so many of my family members were entrepreneurs, but no one ever actually told me go be an entrepreneur, because I come from like a Persian family and it was like, go be a doctor, go be an engineer, go be a dentist, go be a lawyer. Don't go be a business owner. That's risky business, except all my family members were entrepreneurs. So indirectly, I was encouraged to do so. Um, but I was like, my first business was, I don't know, when I was like 15, selling like fake IDs at school. So I've always been entrepreneurial.
I love it. It just to the speak to the point of being an entrepreneur. I actually, even though I look back for my life and at eighth grade, I was like selling gum at school to people, like flipping it, let like, 75% margin from buying it. And
Flipping gum. That's the
I come
best.
from a family of immigrant entrepreneurs. To me, that term was never actually a thing until after college, after I got into the work life, and actually in some ways my introduction into personal development was through an entrepreneurial group. And once I found that this was like a possibility, I was like, why didn't I know about this? Like, why wasn't anyone encouraging me? I think it definitely fit my personality and demeanor. But I do say to people, it's a whole different game when you go from here's a boss telling you what to do to here's all the time in the world, you decide. Right? That time pressure, that paradox of choice can be really, really overwhelming.
So that exactly how you describe entrepreneurship. That's how I felt about art. I knew it
Interesting.
existed, but nobody ever like said as it was an option that it was available to me. It was like, oh, there are these people, but they're not like us. They're different people. There's some, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, I know about them. It's like the way we know about like there's billionaires that they exist, but we don't, I never had I don't have any contact with billionaires. I know they're a thing, but it's probably out of my reach or not something I should even pursue. And so, and then when I discovered it, I'm like, man, I'm very well suited to this thing that was never an option for me.
And so what was that discovery? Did you pick up a camera? Was it photography at first?
No. So, are you familiar with Julia Cameron?
Sure.
So, she talks about in her incredible book, The Artist's Way, she talks about the shadow artist. And so, I was a shadow artist for a very long time where I always had just like this resonance with art, but I was like had a story that's like not me. So when I, you know, ran a web agency, like I was the strategist and then I got to hire the creative team and like hang out with them and give them ideas. When I was in advertising, you know, I was a senior digital consultant and strategist, and I got to like go travel and hang out with the creative teams. When I was in film, I was a producer and I got to hang out with the cinematographers and the creative team. I was always on the margins, just watching, like, can I contribute a little bit? It's not me. You guys are the artists. And then when I was 30, I took this gigantic risk, all based off of a random tweet. I sent this random tweet to 10 people. I just like woke up one day and I was just like, it wasn't even a tweet. It was about a tweet. It was a text message I sent to 10 people saying, if you could send your 14-year-old self one message, what message would you send? All the guys sent back like, buy Apple stock, buy Google stock. And all the girls are like, don't trust him, don't date him. And then one person who just happened to be a photographer, and photography was completely out of my, I didn't even think about it. It wasn't anywhere close to that. And she's like, what would you do? And I was like, I was amused and surprised by her asking me the question for some reason. And I said, I've thought for a while. And an hour later, I messaged her back and I was like, I just messaged 14-year-old Darius and say, go to film school, art matters. And then she just responds back like, well, why don't you do that? I'm like, well, I'm like 28, 29, like it's too late. She's like, is it? And that's it. We left the conversation there, and that is it just went through my mind. I'm like, is it? Is it? Is it? Is it too late? Who told me it's too late? Why is it too late? What if it's not too late? Whoa. And then the next thing I knew, I'm applying. The next thing I knew, I got like a 20-something thousand scholarship. The next thing I knew, I sold all my stuff and moved to Vancouver and started this incredible film school. And then I promised myself when I came into film school, I was going to put all my presumptions about who I am, just leave them and just start fresh. I'm not a producer. I'm not a strategist. I'm not an artist. I am not an artist either, just like fresh. And over the course of film school, like I fell head over heels in love with cinematography. And that was like my gateway into photography.
What's so great about that story is from an outsider perspective, as I look at your content and just get your vibe, I'm like, man, Darius has been doing this since he was 6. Like he feels like this guy's just been an artist like from the day he died. So anyone listening to this, the day he died, day he was born, anyone listening to this, like that not too late applies, not just to 28, not just to 38, not just to 48, that, if you take that switch, and we're going to talk about creativity here in a bit, it's like, even if you're 48 or 58 years old, I'm imagining, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Darius, just by you starting that journey, it becomes rewarding in itself, right? Like the whole path to getting into film school, to doing that, like there's fulfillment. And I always talk about creativity as like, and I guess, you have more connection to him, I guess, than I do, but I'm a huge fan of Seth Godin. And Seth Godin would always ask, like, what would you do if you knew you would fail? Meaning, like, what's worth doing, even if it doesn't go by, even if it doesn't work out, right? That it's actually fulfilling in itself. So starting and following those calls, because I feel like so many people receive that at an older age, and the sunk cost or the societal programming of like what's normal can get in the way of that. So yeah, I love hearing that story of you listening to that and seeing the magic that happens as you go forward.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest problems with the schooling system. It's so bloody linear. It's like so preposterous if you actually think about it. A kid is supposed to figure out what they want to do with the rest of their lives when they're 17, 18 years old. Like I was convinced and persuaded that like I wanted to be a lawyer when I was 18 by my family, by my teachers. I had never been in the room with a lawyer before. I had never been in a courtroom before. I just watched shows and I'm like, lawyer, family saying I should be a lawyer, so I guess I should be a lawyer. And then you go down that path in university and you're like, I do not like this. I really do not like this. There's something off here. And then you start feeling like a failure because you're supposed to know when you're 17, 18, which is, and you feel so old and you feel like you're behind at that age somehow if you don't know. And I wish we could change the system and tell people like up until 30, maybe 40, you should just be experimenting. You're not allowed to know. So if you think you know, stop it. Like, try something else, because that'll inform the thing you want to do anyways, or make you miss that thing and like double down later. But like, stop with this. You're supposed to know this stuff. You're not.
So you have a Instagram post that talks about, it was a recent one where you talk about kind of invoking, in some ways, having a conversation with the divine, or having a conversation in your creations of like calling something in. I can't exactly remember what the words you said, but it's something that I tend to do on a daily basis of, one, how can I be used? How can, what wants to come through me? What wants to come out of me? And I think that's often when I think of what the X factor is for creatives that don't have kind of an opening to that channel, that they're missing in some ways. So take us to one. I guess the question is, how has meditation helped you in your creativity? And you had mentioned that when those two kind of converged, I don't know if that's artist morning, but I'm curious to hear about like when things really opened up in that way.
Mm-hmm. Your first question, I'm pretty sure meditation is the most important thing to my creativity and artistry. There's nothing that has a bigger impact than that. It is my secret weapon. It is my business art coach is God. I get like one-on-one consult with God and the universe and divine and soul, and like it's just like, you got to be kidding me. Like that's like, and everyone has access to it. um your second question, the convergence of those two things, was not artist morning. It was way before artist morning. um it was like a breaking point of sorts. It was 2017. My beloved favorite aunt got sick. She got cancer. It was the first time I ever experienced anything like that. And a thought went through my head that eventually like broke me down in a beautiful, divine way. And the thought was, oh my God, I love her so much. The train of thoughts. Like, is it possible that this might be her last summer? She got sick in the early summer. Like, that's like the worst. Like, I wasn't ready for this to be her last summer. And then it spiraled and I went like, this could be my last summer. Like, nobody actually knows when their last summer is. I'm like, this could be my last day. And it just kept going. I'm like, there is a last breath out there looking for me. And it might find me in 50 years from now or 50 minutes from now. Nobody knows. But when it finds you, it's not like, it's not a demon. It's not a grim reaper. It's just like, knock, knock, knock. Hey, D, what's happening? I'm here. I'm your last breath. It's time to go. You got to put your camera down. You got to put your laptop down. There's no more pictures, no more words, no more podcasts. It's just done. It's time for your last breath. And like, I just became obsessed with that thought. And I'm like, I have more photos to take. I have more words to say. I have more people to meet. I have more things to do. And every morning I started waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and slowly layering in this like morning ritual practice. It started with the bulletproof coffee, then a 5-minute meditation, 10-minute meditation, 15, 30-minute meditation, then some yoga, then some journaling, then some stretching, then some smudging, then some, it just kept growing and feeling into what I needed to like unite my mind, body, soul, heart together. And it almost always ended with me ending up at my computer and just being like, my channels were open and I'm like, what do I want to say? There's something coming through me. Or it ended with me on the streets with my camera and being like, what photos do I want to take today? If this is my last day, where do I want to end it? And yeah, that was that spiritual like breakthrough that changed everything.
And is it like internally changed everything, or did you find as you acted from that place of pure, sounds like,
Everything changed. Everything.
yeah.
my partner, my work changed, my friends changed, like started therapy, like everything changed. It was yeah, it was an incredible time. And it's interesting. I feel like I might be going through another spiritual breakthrough in this current moment, like in this period of my life. I've been journaling about it. I'm like, something really big and beautiful is happening right now. I can feel it. The air smells like it did back then. Like there's something happening. And it's also terrifying when you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I feel the whoa, this is so scary. Everything is changing. But I'm older and I'm wiser and I trust more because I have more data points to tell me I can trust. And it's a better experience to trust and let it just come through you. And so we'll see where this next one takes me.
I'm so curious at that. Are you like letting, is it like things you're letting go of, things that are, ending? If you're willing to speak any more on that since it's present.
I'm not sure what it is yet. I'm still trying to figure it out, but like there so okay. I talk about this thing called the 4 levels of creator consciousness. And level 1 is it's happening to me. It's like classic victim, like holy shit, it's all happening to me, my like family, my country, my ethnicity, my gender, like everything is happening to me. The big leap from there is level 2, which is it's happening for me. There's something looking out for me. There's something guiding. Even the hardest things that have happened to me, they're happening for me. Level 3 is it's like you gain some power, you get some new skills, you realize you have agency, and it's happening by me. I have control of my life. I can do things. Level 4 is it's happening through me, and it requires a sacred surrender. It
Mm,
requires a shedding of ego. It requires like by me is power. You feel your power. I can smash things. I can move things. I have power and agency. But if you clinch too hard, you will exhaust your muscles. You will exhaust your energy, and you can't let anything in. It actually becomes a blockage. And so it's like that sacred surrender and letting it go and realizing that none of this is yours, none of it is permanent. It's all just divine expression working through you. And if you want more of it to work through you, you got to let go of more things. And so I'm looking at my life and trying to figure out, like, and it's not linear either. Like, you could bounce, like, well, I'm back, it's happening to me, oh my god. And you're like, okay, I've got awareness, I can get out of this faster now. But like I got stuck in by me. I'm like, I got to do it all. I can
mm,
change it. I can grind. I can hustle. I can build. And it's like, do I need all of this? Do I need all this tension and this pressure and these things to live this life? It's like, is this the life I wanted? Or am I looking for peace
mm.
and calm and less and flow and ease? And so my ego is attached to a lot of stuff here, and I'm in the midst of figuring out what would serve me best if I let it go.
Powerful. Buy me can be so addicting because we want to feel like we have a sense of control. And especially when we've been praised by our buy me efforts, when the public says, yes, go, Darius, go, Lou, you're doing a good job. And to pull back is and allow and sit in the unknown is pretty, it's sacred, and it's the real work. So I honor you for being there. There's another question on that I want to ask in a little bit, but it's a little bit tangential. Have you read Rick Rubin's new book, The Creative?
Obsessed with it. It's maybe my absolute all-time favorite book.
I
It's like
yeah.
I just keep listening to it. I'm like, this dude's a prophet. Like,
Yes.
what is this? This is the greatest book ever.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know who Rick Rubin is, he's a legendary music producer, and just go search one of his podcasts. Yes, he's on like everyone's podcast nowadays, and I've listened to like all of them because he's different. He's speaking from that place where his voice and his energy, like he's in that space of beingness of where the creative act comes from. So highly recommend checking out Rick Rubin, his new book too. It was like one of those books where I was waiting for like months for it to come out, and finally like it literally went to Barnes and Noble the first day. So he talks about creativity being a collaboration with the universe. And I listened to a talk you gave when you talked about creativity being like a relationship. And I thought that was just a beautiful, I believe it's an analogy to it. Um, do you, I guess, agree with, are you saying the same thing as Rick in the way that he explained it? And, or maybe tell us more about how creativity is a relationship and some of the points that make it so.
Yeah. So today I was talking to my partner and I was telling her that I'm pretty sure me and Rick go to the same church. Like whatever, like we are signed up, we're in the same, like this dude is speaking my
I
language,
feel you, man.
but he is so much more experienced, and he's codified it in a very inclusive way, so it's not rigid, and it's just so eloquent and so clear and poignant and just powerful, and validates and helps me understand things that I was doing intuitively. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what I was doing. I get it. And a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't even know about. And I'm like now doing. So uh, I haven't seen or heard anything in that book. And usually there's something that I disagree with. It's just like everything feels like, yup, yup, yup. Um, your second question was explain the
How,
relationship.
yeah,
Yeah. So the way I see it is creativity is not an act. It's not a task. It's not a painting. It's not a book. It's actually a lifelong relationship we have with this energy, this essence of this thing. And I like to make it real and personify it. And each person gets to personify it however they want. I personify it as a beautiful, brilliant, deeply fascinating woman. And she has had hundreds of thousands of relationships before me. So she's very experienced, very smart, very clever. She can sniff out bullshit. She knows when, because she comes from a family that has access to infinite wealth, infinite power, infinite fame, right? Anyone who gets access to the full breadth of creativity has like access to all of that stuff. So I imagine that her family has all of that. And she can tell if I'm just hanging out with her because I'm trying to access her family's resources. You know, she's like, you don't actually want to play and like dance and like get to know me. You're just trying to get to the stuff. So see you later, buddy. And yeah, and so it's like, is this environment conducive to attracting someone at that caliber? You know, or the way I'm talking, am I constantly talking about like how tired I am? Because no woman, no person wants to date someone that's just like, I'm tired. Creativity is not going to show up. Like, you got to be energized. You got to be like, let's go out. Let's go in nature. Let's go to a record store. Let's go play. Let's go, like, let's just dance. Let's just do for doing sake. Let's be present. And yeah, that's how I've been seeing it. And like, she can speak to me. I can ask her questions. She speaks usually through my journal, you know, asking questions like, you know, is there something you want to share with me? How do you feel about this project? How do you feel about us? And just listening, and meditation is great for that. Meditate, ask creativity a question, and just listen and see what she says. You know, she doesn't, she's not always nice. She's always honest, and she's always supportive, but sometimes she tells you hard truths in a loving tone. She's not like mean, but things you need to hear. And so that's been one of my secret weapons to like foster and nurture a relationship with creativity.
Such a You took that metaphor like everywhere, and it's so good because it makes so much sense. And it's like, yeah, of course, like I can't just be wanting that one hit, like give me the best-selling book now, and then like, no, you got to work for that. So how you get inspiration sounds like you sit down, meditate, journal, let it come through. Is I guess the question is, how do you distinguish the ideas that are worth pursuing? How do you distinguish your head giving you an idea and your soul giving you an idea? Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
great question. I've got two types of answers to that. So it's like sometimes it's like, is it coming from like a divine source, or is it coming from a scarcity minded egoic element, you know? And so I talked about this yesterday. I did my human design chart yesterday. And um, one of the tactics I use, because I am a generator, an emotional generator, and I have like so much energy and I get so excited by things. And it's taken me a while to realize that like that's good. You don't want to like push that down, but you need a system. You can't pursue everything. So one of my systems is just let it come, encourage it. It's young energy, like let it come and write it down, play with it in your journal. You don't need to do anything with it. And then see if in a week from now, and if it's a bigger idea, I give it like 30 days. If I still feel energized, and if it's like kind of the difference between lust and love. Lust is like a chemical reaction. You're like, wow, this is incredible. You know, she's like, we're gonna be so big. We're gonna be the next Facebook. It's gonna be so amazing. Like, oh my God, yeah, let's go. You know, and it's like the whispers are a little like naughtier and like more like materialistic. And it's not, it's like, yeah, versus the love is just steady, and it's like artist mornings whisper to me for 14 days straight. And it was like I was reading The Artist's Way, and I was doing morning pages for the first time in my life, and I already had a meditation practice, and I was terrified because we were in the beginning of COVID, and I was like, I guess art is done. I gotta go be a farmer or something. Like, it's finished. There's no more need for art if this is where the world. I was watching too much Handmaid's Tale, full transparency. But so I would meditate, I would journal, and I would be like, oh, I feel better. And then a whisper every day for 14 days would go, there are other creators who could use meditation and journaling and community. We're just saying they need some support too. I'm like, cool, that's great. What do you want me to do? Like, I'm a photographer. Day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, consistently. Like, same, like, you know, it wasn't like seductive, like getting upping the game. It was just gentle whisper, is what I found. Day 15, I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to just do this. I'm locked in. I can't go anywhere anyways. Let's go make a website. And I made a website in a day, and the whole thing kind of started. And so those gentle, consistent whispers that aren't talking about outcome, you know, they're not talking about this is $1 million idea, this is like going to change the world, the next Facebook, the next whatever. They're less lust, they're more love. I give them a period of time, and then I go in. And Rick Rubin, one of the gifts he's given me is, it's like, no idea should be your life's work. That's way too much pressure. Stop that. When it's like the lust whispers are like, this is your you know, like greatest, biggest project ever. It's too much pressure. It's just wrong. Like, Artist Morning was just going to be this casual little thing for a couple of weeks. And so I've discovered that the best ideas I ever have come from a whisper. There's almost always resistance from me for a period of time. And then I finally give in and I'm like, okay, let's try. And I usually do it for no cost, with very little time and very low expectations, just to do it. Just the act of doing it and seeing where it goes. Whereas the other ones are like, it's going to change the world, greatest thing ever. And it's like, it feels like it upregulates my system in a very different way by dangling a materialistic carrot in front of me.
That's the best answer to that question I think I've ever heard. And I've been asking it more recently because I'm fascinated by how people tap into their creativity and come up with their ideas. The difference between, is this outcome, can you get excited by the outcome, versus just, this thing won't get away from me and I just need to take that little step forward. And there's no promise of any kind of financial or, social or whatever regards. So man, that is so good. Such a good distinction.
And a very important thing I want to say is, it's very hard to hear whispers when your internal system is very loud. So that's the power of meditation. Meditation quiets that stuff. And then the whispers are maybe always there. It's just like that's why waking up for me early, the world's noise is way quieter. So I can tap into the frequency of God and listen to God's radio station and be like, oh, cool, it's there. It's just clearer. So that part, none of the whispers would happen, the lust or the love whispers, unless there was a quieting of my internal voices.
So for those not on camera, I was celebrating when I heard Darius doing his human design, because I've kind of been down a rabbit hole the past 3 weeks after learning my human design as a splenic manifester. And big lesson for me, and something I'm trying to wrap my head around, because I've been indoctrinated and have some kind of sense of pride around a lot of the people that we look up to, Darius. The mantra of a Stephen Pressfield or a Seth Godin of show up, do your work, right? Show up, do the work. Show up each day, put on the smock, write your words, be a professional. And I love that. Like almost became a proponent. I became a proponent for that. And then as I'm learning my human design, I'm learning that my type, different than a generator who has more energy, my type actually works best in these spurts. And it's with that spurt of creativity, there's the rest that comes from that. And for me, letting myself rest feels like I'm falling behind. Letting myself not try to create something, it's hard. It's so hard for me. And so I've been really trying to, in these, even just today, like I did create, I guess today, but even in the past couple of weeks, I've just been a little easier on myself. I've been letting myself sleep in. And there's a part of me that's like, nope, you gotta grind, like grind in the sense of like showing up, like almost like I'm doing that creativity wrong. But learning my human design, I've been just questioning and trying to maybe try on the other end to that. So we're different in that ways, because generators are more like have the energy to just keep pumping, the way that I've at least learned the very little I know. But I guess beyond human design, what is your view on rest, right? Letting yourself not be creative, or letting those cycles happen.
Such a good question. I was so happy you asked that. This is a part of this next spiritual awakening. I think it's so important. I'm like, the thing I'm trying to step into is less grind, more ease, less chasing, more flowing. That's not the, like, I'm just going to sit and manifest. It's like the universe doesn't want that. You don't want that. You decided to come here to take actions, to experience, to explore, not to just sit and have everything amazing happen to you. That's like actually not as fun. Like you know, you want to go out there and make mistakes and grow. And I have burnt out several times. I'm at a constant burnout, you know, for ever. And I'm working on being more gentle with myself. I'm working on not celebrating grind culture. I haven't been celebrating grind culture for a very long time. That's the truth. I like gave that up a while back, but I continue to grind. And a part of that is it's like all of these systems are based off of capitalism. And capitalism is based off of like endlessly finding new things to take over and grow and new markets. It was colonization before to take over land, and now it's like new markets to take. It just has to keep, you got to keep going. You got to keep going, right? And for content creators, the specific thing of that is like social media. Like you just got to keep making content endlessly. What they don't tell you is, you know, I blew up on social media in the last year, like 350,000 new followers, and it's like lots of awesome stuff about that. But it's like you actually you now have a new full-time job. You know, I don't swipe in at Instagram and Facebook, but like basically I do, because they're like, okay, cool, the algorithm loves when you're consistent, so we're gonna give you extra juice if you're consistent. So it's like now there's this pressure of like 10 years ago, I was like, you know, people were just photographers, people were just coaches, and now like we're all photographers and professional content creators. And it's like, you know, they dangle the carrot of like you're gonna get more followers and business and all this stuff, but it's like so much pressure to endlessly create. And then if you stop creating, the algorithm like and your future posts for a while get penalized. And I don't think it's malicious. I think it's like if a worker stops coming to work, the worker that continues working consistently is going to get the most benefit, right? And the one that's like, I'm not going to come in anymore, they're like, there's got to be some repercussions to that. And so I'm looking for a system, and like all platforms, all content creation platforms aren't equal. Like Instagram messes with my friggin' nervous system. You know, Substack is like, the way I describe it is like Instagram is, in Toronto, we used to have this club called The Government with a U, GU, and it was like one of the top clubs in the world. And it had like 8 clubs in one, and it was like intense. It was like beautiful and sexy and grimy at the same time. And it was just like you could go there and meet a shit ton of people and have an experience. And it's like, holy cow, it's really intense experience. Or you could go to like a yoga studio and meet 10 people and just be like, damn, this feels so good. Maybe I'll grow slower materialistically, capitalistically, but it's like, I'm like, when I play in Substack, for example, substack.com, which is a newsletter, I'm like, oh, it feels like a yoga studio. I have 168, not 1,000, 168 followers on Substack is relatively new, and I'm like, oh, it's so much joy just being here with you guys. It generates more energy. Whereas like sometimes Instagram with my 98,000 whatever it is, or like TikTok with my 195,000 followers, is just like, it feels like it steals my energy. And I'm like, so why am I here? Why am I here? What is this? Do I need this? Is this like, what am I actually getting from this? Is there a more efficient way that's more aligned with me, that doesn't involve endlessly creating stuff for these corporations that are making so much money off of me? You know, there's a statement that I love saying these days. It's like, don't build your empire on borrowed land. And it's very important that that's not, don't build your empire on rented land, because your social media accounts aren't even rented. You don't have a lease. If someone hacks into your account tomorrow, it's just gone. All that energy, all that work, all that community, gone. And so it's like, what do I actually want to build that's aligned with 2023 Darius, who's not 18 years old, who's not 30 years old, he's 40 years old. What's aligned with this guy now is what I'm trying to figure out.
Such an important thing to make note of, and something, even in our conversation, it feels very relevant to things that I've been thinking about and working on, because both of us teach on Insight Timer. For me, Insight Timer, I started there in 2016. And for, in full transparency, part of me doing this podcast is because in learning that Insight Timer was not making money, and potentially you don't know where it could go. For a long time I just took it easy. I created courses and I was doing well. Like, they market your stuff, like it's amazing, and I love connecting with that community there. Like, so much joy. It's giving me, before I was even making money on it, when I was just creating meditations, I was just so much joy just engaging with people there. And then I go on Instagram, and yeah, I'd do a post that would do well here and there, but it always felt frenetic, right? There's a frenetic feeling. There's, it's addicting. It's sending those dopamine hits to your brain super fast. And now, after learning that, I'm like, okay, Lou, it's something that you always knew. Like, how do you build an audience outside of it? So I haven't really putting that much effort into social media, because I've just have stuff on Insight Timer, and that's been beautiful for me. And now, as I continue to grow outside, and I've been way more active on Instagram, and I have a newsletter. I'd be curious to talk to you about Substack, because it is something that I'm interested in. I just use ConvertKit for my newsletter. And, that I feel like is what I try and send people to, because I love writing. I love sending newsletters. Um, and I've been trying to, like, okay, once I get, the 100K on Instagram, then I will, send the people to, like, that's what I'm working towards. And just to, like, hear the reminder of, and I know this, like, I've heard it so many times, like, it's not, I know it's not going to give me anything, but maybe, when I think of getting a book deal, maybe, like, if you were to think about, okay, maybe there's a book deal, you have something that can say, hey, I have these many eyes that I will promote it. Because in the nonfiction world, your audience, your list, your whatever is often going to be the X factor more than necessarily your idea, or as I don't want to wax in the wrong way on that, because I do believe in the magic and the beauty. And if I look to someone whose life is pretty inspiring, and I know kind of side-handed, some who doesn't try at all, but is just so in her flow, is, I don't know if you know Sarah Blondin, who's also on Insight Timer. She just
One of like my all-time favorites. Yeah. That's the
yeah.
template that I'm trying to build right now. Like,
Yeah.
again, I don't know all the details, and like people trying to build the Darius Bashar template, and I'm like, hold on, let me tell you the truth of it. So maybe that's true for her too. So it's dangerous building that template, but like something about, like, it seems like she's just like at her cottage and she's writing. She's got 40,000 people on Substack, and she's making coin off of it. At least I think so. And I know she's making coin off of Insight Timer. There's something, and she's like moved away from Instagram. I think she hasn't posted in like 8 months. And so there's something about her that I deeply enjoy. I just looked you up on Insight Timer. This guy's so humble, 38,000 followers. Dude, that's awesome. Insight Timer is one of my all-time favorite platforms. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you find Insight Timer?
It's been the biggest blessing. It was like one of those right places, right times, like universe. I quit my job in 2015 with no real plans other than to figure out how I was going to live my purpose. And there's a way longer story. But the first thing I did was actually write a book, because that felt like the first inspirative calling. And in that time found Insight Timer. In 2016, meditation was my awakening, and I started sharing meditation shortly after that, and kind of, going down that route. So yeah, for me, it was the biggest blessing, and the universe saying, like, yeah, we got you. Like, this is where, it's been the foundation of every good thing. 90% of the good things that have come career wise, at least for me.
Wow, that's
Um,
amazing.
so yeah, super grateful for that. And Sarah, yeah, she's a unicorn on there, and she just is someone that I know has just followed the call of spirit. I'm trying to get her on this podcast. We'll see if Sarah say yes. Uh, because she just is so, like, you talk about through me, like, all of that stuff happen like almost like effortlessly, right? Where it's like, no, we got you. Has nothing to do with how hard you grind for the success you have. So I love, she just embodies and exemplifies someone who is so, says no to things that are not in her lane or not in alignment, and says yes to all the things that feel in alignment.
You're gonna get her, man. You're gonna get her. You're gonna send me a link and be like, "Yo, D, Sarah's on," and I will
Yeah.
watch the crap out of that.
Yeah, we'll see. We have some, mutual connections, but I gotta send her another email. The thing is, I send her an email and then you gotta send. I don't think she read it. Anyway, it's not a conversation about that. So this is such a juicy topic. So I guess to bring it back, because I don't know if I ever really quite heard it. Are you now in that space where you're like letting yourself be or letting the creations just kind of flow and not trying to force it, or are you taking rest? Like, is it more of just like flow, ease, time?
Yeah, today was a great example of flow, and I've been with my partner working with rituals, working with the moon, working with, like sex magic, which is a really interesting thing too. Uh, of like, what do we want to call in? What do we want to like feel? And today was like a rarity for me where it was like almost like a glimpse into a different life. It wasn't waking up. I often wake up early in the morning to do my social media content sprint. Didn't do that. I woke up and did my rituals. It was like exercise, Peloton, kettlebell, like just beautiful, intimate time with my partner, designing it how we wanted. Um, just like leaning into the ease, the flow, and that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the ritual conversation the night before, where she shared what she wants to like call in, and I shared that I want to be like gentler with myself, and I want to like have more ease, and like just the power of sharing an intention, understanding how to like, it's not just saying words, it's saying concise, actionable words that you have an energetic, like there's emotion connected to it, and like there are masters that could help you refine the intention, because often intentions are very loosey goosey and they're not going to leave an impact. And we've like honed in the intentions, and then the whole day this morning I was just like, no, I'm not going to do the 45-pound kettlebell. I haven't worked out in a week. I wasn't feeling well out. I'm like, I'm going to go easy, because I'm not here to do it hard. I'm here to do it long. I'm not here to do one workout and hurt myself. I'm not here to grind like crazy and burn out. I want to be here as long as possible. And that means like being gentler with myself and creating an ecosystem, an environment, a mindset that is sustainable. And so like I moved this call because I wanted to move another call so that I could go to Contact Improv Dance tonight, and bookend my days with like juicy morning rituals and movement and intimacy, and then just contact dance and like being in my body before a big shoot tomorrow. Like, wow, and then I check my emails and like, whoop, there's a new sale. I didn't do anything for this sale. And I'm just talking with her and being like, I want more of this. I'm envisioning, I'm feeling this. Imagine like a system that wasn't dependent on social media and endlessly creating content. And I'm like, so I'm actively looking for that. Maybe it's like, I don't know, Google Ads. Maybe it's podcasts. Maybe it's something different that's more aligned with me, understanding my human design and how crucial it is for me to be doing things that I absolutely love. And there are pieces of my life that are not absolute love. And no one's life is for fully absolute love, but there's pieces that are like leaking energy at an exponential level. And it's time for me to do something about that.
I'm excited to see what more synchronicities show up as you keep refining and keep kind of relating to this kind of realization and new path. It's such a not here to do it hard. I'm here to do it long. That's such a great clip.
Yeah, also a great line for Michael Scott.
Who's Michael Scott? I don't know who that is.
Oh my God, you don't know Michael Scott?
No.
The Office, Steve
Oh,
Carell.
okay. Got it. Got it. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
a
Okay.
classic. If he was here, it'd be like, that's what she said.
That's good. There's definitely a joke on there too, for sure. Um, so I want to talk about something that I'm as a public speaker. So part of also my work, I it took a little while off having COVID, but I've created a speech for high school kids called "Greatness is a Whisper." So this talking about us connecting with that whisper. I actually have a spoken word poem that this whole talk is about, and I've been starting
Come
to.
on, Lou. I don't even know who I'm podcasting with now. He's got 38,000 on freaking. He's a spoken word poet. This guy has been eating too much humble pie, ladies and gentlemen.
I have like 6 go-to poems. Like I don't. It's not something I'm like continually do. It's like one of those things when it's like when I think of spoken word poetry is like something wants to catch me, and if I'm here, I need to just stay with it for like a couple hours, then it'll come out. And so most of these actually came
Sounds
out,
like a poet to me.
yeah, in 2015 actually. You could find actually that poem on Insight Timer called "Greatness is a Whisper." Anyway, so
Right
the
now.
yeah, go check it out. So I've been bringing this to school for me. This is one of those things, Darius, that I've pushed. That I had a coach was like, I was teaching meditation and yoga locally in New Jersey, and she was like, "Hey, why don't you bring this in schools?" I still wasn't making a full-time living, and I got an opportunity at schools where I made a decent amount of money for training teachers how to bring mindfulness and yoga into the classroom. And I went. It was one of those things where it was like this was in 2018. I was like, I saw and hearing you talk about like I saw the potential. Like I saw that future of, oh my gosh, I could have this whole business that does this. And boom, I was off to the races. That summer, I created a website. I was just going in. And I did more, trainings on kids, yoga and mindfulness. And I was just doing all the things and pushing, pushing, and just little drips here, opportunity here, maybe just little drips. And for me, like, I'm so happy I started with absolutely nothing because I've appreciated every single dollar that I've ever made doing something in line with my own self and my own creation. Like the first time I got a paid speaking gig for $100, it was, I put that check on my wall and I saw it every day and I was just like, thank you. Oh my gosh, I realized this dream in many ways. And so school was a way to keep growing that. And I pushed, and wasn't getting a lot back. Like the ROI was so in proportional to like the opportunities that was coming in. It was growing. I had a bunch of things lined up when COVID hit, and then COVID hit. And obviously all those things kind of go poof, most of them at least. Some of them go online. But then I opened up coaching on my website, and it was like once I opened up coaching, it was like the universe was like, oh, here you go. It was like one of those things where it's just people started coming, and it was just like things started flowing. So this is a long-winded way. I'm kind of making a point to something earlier we said, but as a public speaker, as someone who, when I quit my job, I started writing a book. I went to my first Toastmasters meeting, and after that, after I gave my first speech at that meeting, I had a mentor that pulled me in and said, "Lou, do you want to be an inspirational speaker?" And him doing that, I was like, "Oh, you can do that?" It's like, "What?" And that like lit in me like this is something I'm meant to be doing. And so I've fast forward to now, I've gone on such a journey in public speaking, from just the crazy not paranoia, crazy fear and nervous system shut down before speaking in different things, and bombing, to just feeling like shame and just all the things. I've been speaking now for 8 years in different containers and publicly. And so all of this to say, on the one speech I saw of yours, you have in the comments that you bombed at Speaker Slam, like the last time you spoke there, and you said like you weren't going to speak there again. And so I went to watch that video because I think that video was online too. If I watched, it was a different one. Okay, because I was like, I need to see if this guy really like what is his mind? What
Maybe
is
it's
bombing?
online actually. What was the talk about?
It was about you talking about your beard at first.
No, no, that was I didn't put it up. I didn't put it up because I was like that embarrassed about it. And I watched it later and I'm like, it was not bad. It was not
That's what
bad.
I guess that was the
Yeah.
point I'm trying to make. Because we, as a
Yeah.
speaker, like the bombing, like it feels so much more intense when you're speaking that you think you're getting it wrong, but when you're actually to the audience, it's typically
Maybe it's not we as a speaker. Maybe now that I'm a proficient professional human design expert after one session,
yeah.
I'm coming to discover that if your heart is open, like my heart is open according to the chart, whatever that means, we have issues with self-worth. We oscillate from like, yeah, I'm worthy, no, I'm not worthy. And that can be
Mm.
confusing according to them. I don't subscribe to anything fully. I'm still very new to this, but I'm like, oh, this is fascinating and interesting. So maybe it's not, because I know speakers who freaking bomb and they don't even notice. They're like just in their own world. They're like, yeah, whatever. And it's like, I think emotionally sensitive humans, you know, artists, creators, spiritual people, um, a superpower is disarming our hearts and having them open. I've been saying this forever. This is so funny. This is so funny. Like I'm just connecting the dots now. Like you gotta open this thing and then like go have the courage to go deep and then have the courage to bring it up and share it. And when you do that, the armor is still off. You can't go just like it's just like off. And we're walking around hypersensitive. We're so sensitive as spiritual people, as artists, spirit. Holy cow! And we care a lot. We care a lot, and sometimes that can lead to fragility if we're not careful. And so for me, like it's like it could get very shadowy, very toxic. And it's like it taps into some core wound where I start like just feeling really terrible and really like everybody's lying to me. And no matter what anyone says it's positive, it's only happened like 3 occasions when it was that bad. Like the more positive you say, the more I think you're actually lying. And I just can't receive it. And I'm in this like terrible vulnerability hangover spiral. The good news is after all the work I've done, it went from like lasting a week to lasting 3 days to lasting 24 hours the last time it happened. And so, yeah, it's hard being sensitive. And
I've
it's a freaking superpower if you know how to use it.
yes, I've been there, and I have the same. I think for me, it's an undefined heart center, even though we're different types. I don't know if that's yours too in human design, but yeah, two new experts in human design here telling you about it. So what I want to respect your time because I know you're bringing more ease into your life. So I'm, but I'm having fun on this conversation. Uh,
Me too.
what do artists get wrong about making money, or how is your relationship to financial success or for receiving financial support? I don't even want to say support, it's financial response to yourself as an artist and creator. How is that journey been easy for you? Have you overcome stuff like mindsets?
Has not been easy. No, I mean, that's a part of this next awakening. Something there needs to shift. Um, I deeply appreciate Rick Rubin, Liz Gilbert, people who like speak transparently around it. Rick Rubin, I think, probably says the most about it in terms of like you don't need your art to be your income. You know, you don't need to. Liz Gilbert says like she didn't quit her job um till years after Eat, Pray, Love was like a colossal international success. Um, I think there's a romanticizing of what art is, similar to what entrepreneurship is. And I think, like Rick Rubin talks about, if you love what you do, mission accomplished. Like that's it. Stop with the fame and the money. And he's probably like arguably one of the greatest living music producers and has the like one of the most like hits Like his consistency is insane, and he is telling you you can't control that shit. It's out of your control. Stop trying to control the outcome. You know, like if you genuinely love this thing, then you can test your intentions. Do it for free. Do it on your spare time. Do it because you love it. Let go of validation, let go of money, let go of fame, and just do it because you get enjoyment. Mission accomplished. Stop trying to be the next viral sensation. You can't control any of that stuff. And it's interesting that I used to believe that and say that, but now on the other side of having several viral successes, and I'm like, I don't know how that shit happens. Like, I actually don't understand how social media works. Like, I could tell you some things I've learned, some principles and stuff, but like the reason I can't tell you how it works, there's no formula, because if you find a magic formula, you also have to find a time machine and go a year back in time to apply the formula, because that formula doesn't work anymore because every day they're iterating and changing stuff. And so letting go of all that and being like, do I enjoy this post? You know, and it's hard to enjoy the post when the post is so deeply connected to like, can I pay my mortgage?
Mm.
You know, that's a crazy amount of pressure. And if you're trying to create like the best work possible, to have that pressure, it makes it very unlikely. There are some people that like quit their job and go off on the deep end. And honestly, that was me a lot of the time.
I did
But I
that too. I
think,
don't recommend it.
yeah, I don't recommend it. It's just like, yeah, I've never heard anyone say it the way Rick Rubin says it. Like, your hobby can be the most important thing in your life. Nobody said it can't. You know, capitalism said it can't, because it's like, no, we need you like at the factory, whatever the factory is, if it's the Instagram factory or like whatever, we need you there all the time. And yeah, it's I've had a very challenging relationship with money. And I'm currently like, when I first started, it was like, I hate money, screw money, I'm gonna do all this stuff for free. And that was coming from scarcity. That was coming from like family trauma, you know? Then it was like, yo, let's go all the way into money. And I made lots of money, multiple six figures, created like systems and sciences. And then I'm like, man, I don't like this anymore. You know, it's like, I sometimes joke, and it was just like, I got so bored. I got so bored that the system worked, and it was just like, and I was just like, it's just missionary position. It's like photography is like my wife, and I was just missionary, missionary, missionary. And I was like, then flirting with Artist Morning and flirting with all these other projects. I'm like, I just want to, you know, and it was just like, photography is down to do any of the kinky things I want to do, but I am bringing missionary position, not her. She's down for like, you want to do stylized photo shoots, you want to do like any crazy sun chaser, you like, I'm down, but you're bringing rigid structure. And so, yeah, there's a lot I could say on the topic. I'm currently in the midst of redefining my relationship with money, and I know at the core of it, I can make all sorts of excuses for like COVID, and it, you know, like caused a lot of problems, and it did for a lot of us. But at the core of it, I like just so intuitively know it is a misalignment, an improper wiring of my self-worth.
Mm.
And that's where I will see the biggest impact, if I can go to the root of the problem and address that.
Thanks for sharing that, brother. What was I have to ask because I'm just curious. What was like, because there's another piece here in you doing something that you cared about, maybe even if it was on Instagram and felt like, you're signing up for it, doing that for a while, and then having the viral post. Like what was the thing that took you from, I heard you say you went from like 0 to 5,000 in 10 years, and then like 5 to 10,000 and to 100,000 in like 10 days. Was it like one post?
It's hard to say, because it was one post that went viral and then made several others go viral. But it's just such like a it's a misconception to think about it just through that singular post, because it's actually like 14 years of content creation.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
My favorite line from Rick Rubin's book is like, failure is the information you need to get to where you're going. And 14 years of things going right, and that's also information, and things going wrong, and that being information, is what got me to that one post at that specific time that finally went viral.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminded me of like the bamboo grows like, was it
Yeah,
like for
exactly.
years under the ground, you don't see it, and then for the first like 90 days it grows into what you see above ground. So Darius, what are some other teachers or books on creativity that you might suggest for someone in their creative entrepreneurial spiritual journey? You take that anywhere, if it doesn't have to be a creativity book.
Sure. The books, there's three books now. There's two, now there's three that read every year, at least twice. Liz Gilbert's Big Magic, and every year it's different. David Data's The Way of the Superior Man. Every year it's different. It's not so much about creativity, but it is. It's more like a guide to life and relationships as a man. And now Rick Rubin's The Creative Act is going to be another one I will read at least twice a year. Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way is one I recommend all the time for anyone who is in the beginning of a creative journey or stuck. Or for me, I wasn't either of those. So anyone actually who hasn't read it, who's in the creative space, should read it. I was so resistant to reading it, and then like changed everything. Seth Godin's The Practice, highly recommend that. I have a hard time with Stephen Pressfield. He's like a bit, I know people love him, and I feel like I need to like cleanse my palate and go back in. I have like four of his books, and he's just so aggressive. And I think his stance with like the antagonism of the universe, and it's like it's war, right? Is not, doesn't vibe with me. But like even things that I don't agree with, I still try to like, there's other magical things happening here, and I want to be open to it. It's just like I'm just like, that turns me off real hard. But I know he can be very helpful. I just love reading poetry. Poetry is really cool. Uh, yeah,
Any
Young
favorites?
Pueblo. I like, my books are over there. I like little short, and they're like, people say they're cheesy. I don't really care. They make my heart feel things, and they give me access, like Atticus, Rupi Kaur, Leonard Cohen. I bought it like an anthology. Been jamming with him. Young Pueblo. Like, I just like short prose, and just like, damn, that just got me. That hit me somewhere, and I could feel my heart, and I need that sometimes. What else? What else? What else? Yeah, I think I've literally got a page with the books. I'll pull that up, but I think that's a good start.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, lots of juicy things in there. Um, so Darius, you've talked about, I guess, what you're focused on now in the sense of just kind of finding the ease. You're welcome to talk about any other thing you're excited about, or anywhere you just want to point people to, or that you would feel like would be helpful for people to know or to stay connected with you.
Um, Things I'm excited about, and then where. So you can find me anywhere with just my name, Darius Bashar, DariusBashar.com, Instagram. It's so funny, after all this talk, it's still like, let's go hang out on Instagram. It's so funny. It's so
It's a
entrenched and so
double-edged
just
sword, man. It's
entangled.
yeah.
Yeah. So that Substack is somewhere that I'm having a ton of fun. So Artist Morning Journey on Substack. It's like I'm doing a little creative experiment where I'm trying to write, podcast, video, photo, poetry, dance, who knows, for 365 days straight to push that creative edge. Um, And what I'm
That's a big
excited
commitment, by
about,
the way.
oh yeah,
He's
it
speaking it
is,
out.
but somehow it's like generates more energy than
Yeah.
like 3 to 5 times on Instagram. So it's
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah, it actually, I get energy from it currently.
Cool. I'm gonna check you out on Substack. I want to see what you're doing there.
It's like a laboratory for me.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like, man, do people want an email every day? I don't know. I stopped sending all the emails every day, so I probably send like half of them, but I still post them. Uh, but I just wanted to like, I'm like, if everyone unsubscribes but 3 people, I'll still create 365 pieces of content, and at the end of it, you know, I'll be a whole different person. So it was less about like growing the followers and more about like, I just need 3 people to hold me accountable. If there's 168 people, that's even more accountability, but I actually just need 3. I know that's the number for me. 3 people will be enough to get me to actually do it. And what else am I excited about? I'm excited about this new chapter. There's something big and beautiful happening in my life, and I don't know what it is, but I'm doing my very best to let go and let God flow.
Amen to that. Darius, I knew this was going to be such a great conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time, man. Yeah, I'm sure we'll connect again soon.
Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation. I enjoyed it a lot.